Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be reading an article from Fox News on how this person is a part of Gen Z, and they are saying that men in their generation are simply not dating, and they're asking why should they? And so this is really a critique of modern culture where there's a decline of gender relations between males and females, and there's really not much of a benefit for men to be in the dating market, especially in America and Western society, and how there are a ton of benefits of simply opting out of society altogether, not just the dating market for men. So to start off this article, all across America, marriage, sexuality, and relationships are on steady decline. Among young people, according to a new Pew Research study, 63% of men aged 18 to 29 report being single. Okay, so that's very concerning because that's the most fertile years of your life. So you're going to be able to have offspring that are less likely to have things like deformities, be at peak performance. And so during a person's best years to create the next generation, on a civilizational level, the vast majority of people are just not having children at that age. They're not even in a relationship. They're all 63% are single. That means the number of single men is nearly twice that of single women, indicating a large breakdown in the social, romantic, and sexual lives of American men. The big question is why. Okay, so twice as many young men being single. That can tell you a couple things. One is that there are some men that have multiple women, so that's why the women are less single. And two, that could tell you that women are dating older men, which makes evolutionary sense, which we could talk about in another context. But the fact of the matter is, men are opting out of the dating market. So the question is why? One would think that making romantic connections would be easier than ever in our digital age, but the opposite is true. Our culture of convenience has paradoxically made dating more difficult for men as they are forced into a hyper-competitive, superficial environment that emphasizes instant gratification over true human connection. While there are several potential culprits causing this relationship breakdown, nothing has done more damage to the dating landscape than dating apps, social media, and pornography. So in terms of dating apps, women just do not get this, which is that you can have a man's attention, but that doesn't mean you're going to have his commitment. And women go on dating apps and they get a lot of attention from men, because men want to have sex without attachment, without connections. And women assume that by giving men sex, that they're going to get commitment from the man. And that's just not how men work at all. And so women end up being deeply unhappy, deeply mentally ill from this type of dating app culture where they get a lot of attention from men, and they assume that attention will lead to commitment from men. And they don't necessarily realize their value. They've actually shown the distributions for women rating men and men rating women, and women just they see nearly all men as being below average, and they see their own value as being far in excess of what it actually is, because they don't understand that they're getting a lot of attention from men who are anything from like a 1 to 10 in terms of attractiveness rating, but in terms of actual commitments, they're not able to properly assess how attractive of a guy they can get to commit to them. And so they're overrating their own sense of attractiveness because they're able to get the attention of men who far exceed their own level of attractiveness, if that makes sense. And so women are also losing out because of the current dating market and how it's structured. So let's start with the dating apps for this article, though. The advent of relationship websites started with Match.com in 1995 and evolved into the swipe-based platforms we know today, with Tinder and Hinge releasing in 2012 and Bumble in 2014. According to a survey of 6,000 adults, 53% of adults aged 18 to 29 have found someone to date through an app or site. However, new census data shows that U.S. marriage rates hits an all-time low in 2019. For every 1,000 unmarried adults, only 33 got married. This number was 35 a decade ago and much higher at 86% in 1970. Wow. So what gives? New census data shows that the U.S. marriage rate hit an all-time low, which is not good for society. It's easier for men to date thanks to technological conveniences, yet this technology has created a counterintuitive situation, leading them to have a fickle attitude towards relationship, constantly searching for the next thing instead of committing to one person. Oh, I don't agree with this at all. This is not accurate. Okay, so for the absolute top tier of men, the top let's say 10% of men, yes, it's actually very easy for men to search around and get a lot of different chicks and not commit to any of them. But for the vast majority of men, they just don't have access to women because women have an overly inflated sense of their own self and their own value because they're able to get attention to men. Really, what you should be assessing is what is the level of man you could get to commit to you, not the level of man you can get to give you attention. Because evolutionarily, men are all living organisms want to pass on their genetics to future generations. And the way women do it is by getting the commitment of one man who is good enough to reproduce with. For men, though, because of their lesser commitment to the childbirth process, their actual best evolutionary strategy is to sleep with a lot of women in order to have as many offspring as possible to get their genetic material into the future. Now, on a conscious, intentional level, that's not how they think of it, but in terms of how they actually act in the world, it typically is that way. And so for men, the top men who are able to get access, have a lot of access to women, they tend to sleep around because in terms of passing on their genetic material, they get that the most by sleeping with a ton of women. Of course, there's a lot to talk about there in terms of decoupling sex from reproduction, which has occurred with things like various birth control. But we can talk about that in another video. But for the sake of this, it's good to recognize that it's actually in women's best interest to stick with one man. But because of how they're acting in the dating market with the mix up between attention and commitment, it's actually them who is, they're the ones who are stopping this from happening and stopping commitment from happening, because men are not the ones who actually have access to the final say over whether a relationship happens. And so you're having a top 10% of men who are making an evolutionarily adaptive decision of sleeping around. Unfortunately, it's not leading to actual offspring, which would be the evolutionary imperative of their genetic material. But they're doing what's evolutionarily beneficial to them. It's women who are not doing what's evolutionarily beneficial for themselves because they're misinterpreting the attention signals for commitment signals, and they're not the same. They may not even be related to a decent extent. But anyways, we can move on from there. We could talk about that further in separate videos. With the abundance of choices on dating apps, young men are finding it difficult to build deeper connections with a single person due to that sense of constant availability. This is the complete opposite of the truth. The person who wrote this article is obviously an ignoramus. When a minor red flag appears in a relationship that is otherwise going smoothly, why stick around and work it out when thousands of other choices are right at your fingertip? Young men are making that calculation every day on dating apps and are siding with the latter. How can you blame them with the constant programming coming from social media? This is a ridiculous thing for this person to say. I'm currently of the opinion that they have a single digit IQ, which is very concerning. I didn't think that was possible for a living, breathing human being. But yes, what they said here applies to women, not men. They're just completely wrong about everything in life. So yeah. With social media today, men can scroll through their feeds and popular pages to view more beautiful women in one sitting than most men would see in their lifetime 100 years ago. Okay, so that's a true statement because apparently this person is somewhat similar to a broken clock. Social media vies for people's attention, leading women to commercialize themselves, which gives men an unrealistic expectation of the dating pool. That's just not true what we know of research. Men are able to properly assess the attractiveness of women, while women are not able to properly assess the attractiveness of men. It's a normal distribution for men where they put like a 5 as average is actually average for women's attractiveness, whereas women put the vast majority of men as far below average. They just see a few really 9 out of 10 men and 10 out of 10 men. They just put that across the entire distribution. They just do not have a clear sense for what average looks like for men. So this is so wrong given everything we know. This person does not have a firm grasp of reality. I just want to put their name on blast, whoever they are. Aldo Butazzoni. This person is just a moron. Okay, so on social media, people are encouraged to only show their best, even if it's fake. With the advancement of facial recognition technology, many times men are looking at women through heavily filtered and airbrushed lenses. While women reap the benefit of the online attention, men are left wondering how the dating pool has gone so far out of reach. Consequently, those same women who are marketing themselves as something they are not are left without a partner and wondering where all the good men have gone. Through social media, both sexes are conditioned to treat themselves as a number instead of embracing true human connection and partnership. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but to me, flirting face-to-face leaves a bigger impression on the potential for a relationship than reacting to a girl's Instagram stories with the flame emoji. Coupled with the barrage of women on dating apps, the culture of constant compassion fostered by social media makes it hard for men to commit to a relationship and settle down. If that wasn't enough, now even men's greatest source of dating motivation has been co-opted by pornography. There's no doubt that lust, which is carnal in nature, is the strongest driving motivation for men when it comes to dating. It sparks initial attraction. It sparks initial attraction and passion. It draws people together. Okay, so we're gonna skip this. Okay. Yes, pornography has been bad for men. Today, men in the 20s are more likely than women to be romantically uninvolved sexually, dormant and friendless. Studies have shown that men are more likely to engage in risky and violent behavior when they lack a stable relationship, leading to higher crime rates and substance abuse and social unrest. Single men may also be less invested in building strong social networks, leading to isolation and lack of community. Okay, so this is important. So we have something like 30% of men in Western society who have just opted out of society, and that should be concerning. If you're civilization building, you should be very concerned that almost a third of men have just opted out of society in general, because that leads to a very fragmented society. It leads to a lot of social instability. And again, this is one of the reasons that I think Western society is just going to collapse eventually. It does not have enough people participating in it, buying into it, to keep the system afloat. Simply put, the breakdown of relationships between men and women is startling and is detrimental to a healthy society. Okay, another thing that I agree with this person on. The good news is that men can fix this, and the remedy is easier than we think. Leave dating apps, stop watching porn, and go talk to girls in real life. Okay. Aldo is a cultural and political commentator for PragerU. Okay, so now I understand why this person is a moron. They work for PragerU, who now hosts their very popular Man on the Street series. Aldo got his start. I actually was very convinced Aldo was a girl just based off of how they were talking in this article, because they really know nothing about men. They have a very rose-tinted perspective on things. This is not, like, I know the scientific literature on relationships, and what Aldo said here was just not accurate whatsoever. So Aldo got his start doing on-the-ground reporting for the Blaze TV, Next News Network, and other outlets where his work first went viral for exposing family-friendly drag shows across the country. So this person, I do not have a particularly good opinion of this person right now. I'm actually going to look this person up because I'm curious if they're soy or not. What does this person look like? Okay. This person has the type of jawline I would expect from someone who writes this type of article. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So if you found this video to be informative, please leave us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channel for more content. We have new long-form videos every single day. Please leave us a comment in the comment box below. Questions, concerns, critiques you might have. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.